Welcome to the Upshot, Multi-World Disc Golf's podcast about the latest in the disc golf world. I'm the editor, Charlie Eisenhood. Joining me is Josh Mansfield on this Thursday, February 13th. Tomorrow is Valentine's Day, folks. That's just a little helpful reminder. Grab something, flowers, chocolates, you know what to do. Josh, we have a great interview today with DGPT CEO Jeff Spring. Jeff's probably our most frequent interview over the years, and always great to have him on before the season starts and an opportunity to ask about a bunch of stuff that's going on in the Pro Tour this year.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too, is that Jeff, we get to talk about just the widest range of subjects. Really gives us an opportunity to try and tackle everything, and so love having Jeff on during the year. Love having Jeff on prior to the season. Love having Jeff on at the end. It's a great opportunity, and I appreciate that he is willing to come on, with that regularity, and is prepared to speak to all these topics.
Really quick, couple of notes. Just want your reaction. Sai Ananda leaving Westside. Chandler Kramer joining Gateway.
I didn't know that Gateway continued to sponsor players. I'll be honest. Feels like there was not a big market for Chandler Kramer. And I think that's kind of a lateral from where he probably was. Sai Ananda, I'm wondering, I'm curious to know to what extent, like, she's leaving Westside for better opportunity, or if that was a Westside initiated, we're not renewing kind of thing.
I think it's tough to get a meaningful sponsorship if you're not on tour. And Sai's not on tour.
Yeah.
Sai plays, 30% of the events or something?
Is that it?
I mean, I don't know if it's that low, but it's significantly less than the typical touring player.
Sure.
So, that, and we've talked, when we had her on the pod, we asked about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, she played U.S. Women's, Texas State's, Jonesboro, DDO, Portland, Beaver State Worlds. That's it.
That's not enough. Yeah.
That's not enough.
Yeah.
Right?
It's not enough.
And, it's not like she was killing it out there. She played okay. Top 20 in her first 4 starts, but then wasn't in the top 20 after that. And, that an FPO top 20 is probably not enough to really move the needle.
Yeah. I think you're right about that.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're going to jump into this interview right now with Jeff Spring. Don't go anywhere. It's the Upshot. The Upshot is presented by Pound Disc Golf, makers of the best bags in the sport. Well, guess what? Brand new Octothorpes available now. You can make a custom Octothorpe with the brand new 2025 design right now at pounddiscgolf.com, and stock items are going to start pre-orders tomorrow. That is Friday, February 14th at 12 p.m. Pacific time. Stock Octothorpes and Octohalls will be available along with new style Octo Rainflies, Octo Caddies, and Octo Inserts. And I got to be honest, I don't even know what this is. They're putting the finishing touches on the Quarter Pounder Club. We hope you're hungry for a Royale with cheese. I'm going to be on the website at noon Pacific tomorrow to find out exactly what that is. So stay tuned and get ready for stock orders on brand new Octothorpes at pounddiscgolf.com. Joining us now on the Upshot is the CEO of the Disc Golf Pro Tour, Jeff Spring. Jeff, welcome back to the program.
Thanks for having me, guys. Excited to be back.
Always great to have you on. We are about 2 weeks from the start of the 2025 Disc Golf Pro Tour season. How are things shaping up for this upcoming year? How are you feeling?
We're feeling good. It's our 10th season, so we're excited to celebrate a little bit throughout this year.
You guys don't have any 10th season kind of merch or things you can get, do you?
We do. Yeah, we have a 10th season commemorative retail box with some shirts and discs and a new stamp. And do you guys have you heard of it?
I've heard of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the 10th season is great. I think when I think about this year, the big highlight is Worlds. In Europe, the first international European Worlds here, and kind of the culmination of UC Maresma's kind of march, kind of through some really special events for our sport. The European Open's been one of the kind of most iconic venues, and now here we are. It's Worlds, and I think it's going to be a big celebration in Europe. So that definitely stands out. We're also starting to get ready to announce a couple exhibitions. We previewed those in our media update recently, but there's a lot to be excited about for sure.
Speaking of Worlds, I'm curious, as you were making this decision, was there conversations with players about kind of the commitment and how many players are going to be coming over? Worlds is typically one of the largest events in the sport, the largest event, maybe I dare say, at least on the professional side. Are we expecting that same level of attendance in terms of people committing to come over, especially given that there's 2 European majors this year?
Yeah, we've kind of over the last few years seen an influx of players heading over for the Euro Tour, PDGA Euro Tour, and then as we launched DGPT Europe last year. So those numbers are increasing. I don't know the exact numbers on the World's Reg at the moment, but I know that Krokel, which is the event before EDGF, which is replacing the European Open this year as a major in Europe, hence the 2. I know that it has, probably like 100 tour card holders in it. So I feel like the EDGF registration, which I think they just, kind of put up on their site, is going to have a lot of tour card holders. Of course, we have international tour card holders as well. But from what I could see, we have over 80 U.S. players already registered for Krokel, for instance. And so I think the field's going to be strong. I don't know if it'll be everyone, that you would see, at a typical U.S. DGPT. But I don't think you're going to be seeing any, names that have a chance to win missing. So,
you just hinted at the exhibition stuff coming up. You announced the DGPT Match Play Championship. So we've seen the match play before. You're bringing it back, and it says this exhibition series will feature in-season regional match play events on Thursdays at Music City Open, Krokel Open, and LWS Open. So can you tell us a little bit more about what's the qualification process going to be? How do those early tournaments get seeded? Do you have to opt in, or is this a requirement? How is this all going to work?
Not a requirement. All stars have a opt-in. And so we're going to make that available to them starting next week. And we're going to have 16 overall. So there'll be, probably, I believe, we're about to set this, but it's going to be based on tour standings through Austin. And so if you're not opted in via All Stars, then we'll just invite down that list. So players this year will have a chance to qualify for those regionals, but it's going to be World Cup style, where there's 4 groups of 4 in each division. And they have group play. So hence the 3 locations. We are thinking about adding a 4th location we have in mind. If scheduling needs to, basically put some group plays in a different spot. But this is great because we're already stood up at MCO, Krokel, Idlewild, and we do things like champs versus jumps, or we welcome, the go throw skins in, and they're doing, I think, 6 or 7 this year of those. So on those days before 3-day events, it's really great to have, a fan day where they can come in and watch something exciting. I think this is going to be really exciting because we're probably, we're going to launch FPO matches in the morning, MPO in the afternoon. There'll still be plenty of practice time for players that aren't playing in the match play. And this will be kind of like a pseudo practice round for those players that are competing. But I think we could really have some really cool matchups and add to that event week. So
then top 8 make the championship?
Yeah. If you're, kind of top 2, right, in your group. In your pool, and your group play, then you move on, and so it'll be 8 men, 8 women, the weekend in Charlotte in the off season, which we're really excited about.
It's gonna be fun.
Yeah, it absolutely will be. I feel like I'm in the spirit of the Price is Right, Jeff. What are they playing for?
What are they playing for? We're gonna set the final purse here by next week, but we are expecting to put the grand prize up there, 15, 20K. So
wow.
make it
bigger than before.
a really big,
yeah.
really big deal. So, we're running the final numbers here, but we want it to be really incentivizing for players to want to win this. When we did match play, we didn't have the qualification. We kind of found that it's hard to do all the match play in one weekend or one even week. You could be an entire week if you have a big field. And ideally, this goes well and we can actually expand it. It would be cool to have a bracket of 64 that whittles down across the season, on those days. So we start small. All stars have this perk of jumping in if they want to, and then you can earn your way in through the first few events. But I think when we ran it, it was in Bailey. It was at 9,000 feet, which was pretty cool. Bailey, Colorado. This was in 2022, I think. And Owen Scoggins and Joel Freeman won 10K each at that one. So, we're going to be, somewhere in the 5 digits there for the winner. And we're excited to roll out the final details.
It feels like this makes a lot more sense in a lot of ways, like having a process to cut down the field ahead of time, to give people a reason to care throughout the season, and to make it a lot easier for players. Because that Bailey, it was hard to get all the players to care and want to go out of their way to a stop in the in the Rockies.
Yeah.
When it was this, sort of extra thing. I mean, I'm sure you got that feedback from players, right?
Yeah, it was coming back from, the West Coast to the East Coast. So, it was a little bit of a dip down before heading to, the Midwest. But some players really loved it, especially the players from Colorado. I think that a lot of them and fans from the Rockies want to see some mountain golf. So, it would kind of helped us put some of those, big downhill shots and some of the uniqueness of playing in the mountains, on camera, which, we're hoping to keep doing in the future. But the discs fly different.
Yes.
I was playing up in the mountains, and man, I think I was, kind of throwing my Meteor, and it felt like a stable mid range. So
well, the Sidewinder's referred to as the Mountain Destroyer.
The Mountain Destroyer, right?
Yeah.
It's true. I mean, it's crazy. It's and I wasn't surprised to see Joel win, because he was he had his whole bag dialed for it. He was just this is my elevation bag. So
yeah.
That's cool. All right, so I want to hear a little bit more about how the industry downturn has been affecting the Pro Tour. We've seen kind of rolling layoffs from the tour over the last, 18-ish months. And, companies that are involved in the industry are sponsoring things that you're doing. So if there's less marketing money from them, there's less marketing money coming into your accounts. Then there's also the pressure of continuing to try to raise the purses all the time. And it seems like that could be putting some pressure on the Pro Tour. So, what is the financial status of the DGPT? And do you feel like you're on stable footing going into 2025, or is it a little bit of a precarious situation right now?
Yeah, I feel like we're kind of in a steady phase, where certainly we've watched the correction, where folks are going back to, kind of some team sports, poker games, that kind of stuff. And, seeing a little bit of a churn out of those, COVID highs, but we're also seeing new growth, in subscriptions. I think through talking to partners, it's kind of depending, who you are, I think, and trying to find the right, pocket of success for growth. But there's signs, I think, that, the continual growth that we've seen for 40 years in the sport is continuing, even though maybe we, are seeing a huge surge, kind of abate. So I would say it's steady. We're on good financial footing. For us last year, we've seen from 2020, 21, 22, 23, kind of fire hose type growth. So, it's when we are projecting, kind of growth that we've seen for 4 years, we have to make a correction. Right. And so I think a lot of folks are doing that. And, we feel like we've, kind of shifted into the right gear. We've made the correction, and we're looking forward to the year. In fact, the 25 season, it really looks like a, pivot point to me, where we're really gearing up for driving future growth, we feel, as a tour. we really want to look at how do we double our audience? How do we triple our audience? When you're growing so fast, you don't necessarily have to look at driving that, and so you're just kind of trying to serve the folks that are coming in and make sure that it's sustainable for your team. And so we need more people, we need more events. And so, just shift into the right gear here to kind of keep driving up that hill is our attitude. And I think we've got a lot of ideas, and we're looking to kind of make this strategic plan on how do we bring more people in, viewership to the pro game. How do we build that stage for those pros even bigger? How do we keep driving purses? But overall, pretty steady. I would, you asked about purses. I think that, we look, to probably deliver similar purses to last year, across the tour. I wouldn't say that those are necessarily going to grow, but also last year they grew to their highest on average, of kind of over 65K out of cash per event in the US. The European events were growing too. They were hitting their marks at 25K euro and above, added cash. So I don't think we're in a bad place. We definitely want to be steady for the players that are seeing some, reported challenges in getting the same level of sponsorship. So that's kind of our goal as we look into this year is steady, but how do we bring more people into the sport?
You have with this, and Charlie talks a little bit about it, but there's also something from your answer as well, the growth mindset and adapting it back to the proper gear at this point. Something that we've talked about year over year, but was the question of, is the Pro Tour turning a profit? And that discussion changed fundamentally because you were just investing in new equipment every year and new staff and just again and again, because you're keeping up and expanding in this growth and using that opportunity to develop the product that the Pro Tour is today. Now that you're in this gear that is a little bit more sustainably minded, I imagine then that profit is continuing to be that goal. What's that in financial outlook look like for both this year and then maybe next few years in the future?
Yeah, we kind of look to try to break even on a yearly basis because we are growth minded. So we're trying to invest in our team, invest in new technology, for the customer experience, and invest in events because events are our beating heart. We want those events to be great. We put them on camera. We want the courses to be great. We want to support our event teams and the LOC partners that we have. So, I think that, it's a good question, but generally we're going to try to look to break even. If we're having, a little, dip in terms of, that explosive growth and we're not, a little bit more steady, then, we're going to have to adjust and not have the same amount of resources to put into the game. But, it's really, we're serving the players here and our event teams and trying to basically be this apparatus that can drive, more resources to events and like have that show up for players. So at the end of the day, we're not profit minded, because that other than how much do we have to put back in, and, beyond that, I think, Todd, our owner, has been awesome at like just supporting us. And when we need to expand or get something done, beyond profit, and saying, hey, we need a capital investment. He's been a superstar for our company, for the sport, really. So, that's going to continue. And, we feel good about that. And, as we look to kind of say, hey, well, what do we have to do to drive that next phase? We need to, buy live airtime, because we want to show it to the world. Do we need to collaborate with, 20, 30 million follower, content creators on YouTube, all that costs money. And so, when we put the strategic plan to bring more eyes in and bring more people in to play, we may say, hey, we got to make some investment. Hopefully some of that's through profit, but, perhaps some of it's through, continued investment. And that's kind of the plan we're trying to put together this year. So, hopefully that answers your question there. But yeah, we kind of hover around break even, so that's what we look to do.
So I'm kind of curious. I know you made some staffing changes recently, and I want to get to that in a minute, but are you looking to make a major, like, are you trying to bring in major equity partner? I mean, it feels like the Pro Tour has gotten big enough, and with the size that, you know, the DGN subscriber base has become, it's going to be very interesting to people from the broader sports world or from the OTT world. And, you know, I guess it maybe would be a concern at some point to have basically one major financial backer. Are you trying to broaden the ownership group, if you will, to kind of like set a path forward for the Pro Tour that could allow you to be a little bit more aggressive with your hiring, with, you know, your expansion plans, et cetera?
Yeah, lot there. I think I'll start with just saying, like, bringing in, you know, a broader ownership group is likely a double-edged sword, right? You have higher expectations. You have people that are in it not because they love the sport and want to see its growth and professionalism develop, like Todd, who is, you know, passionate about what we do. You're looking at a group of owners that, you know, demand results. And sometimes you may be in a situation, you know, just speculating here, but also through talking with our board, you know, that, hey, you know, you got to make decisions based on profit, you know, based on, you know, results versus what we do now, which is player focused, right? So if we do broaden at any point in time, we want to make sure to bring in the right partners, you know, the right investment, because we don't want to change, you know, the core mission, which is to provide the grandest stage for the players, you know, provide the best transmission that we can, you know, to the audience on site and online. And the reason to do it is because we feel like, hey, we've got a growth plan that requires, you know, maybe some more investment, and, you know, we are going to be able to deliver a better experience for players, or a better experience for TDs, a better experience for fans. And, you know, that's kind of, we're putting together that plan, but, you know, I don't know that will necessarily elicit, you know, investment from outside organizations. I can tell you that we get hit up all the time, you know, all the time. People are reaching out saying, like, wow, you guys have done great things, like amazing things, like looking at subscriber count, looking at like what we're able to generate with what we're doing. And we've just been doing this with slow and steady growth. If you look at other, you know, kind of emerging sports, you know, there is, you know, a little bit of a boom and a bust and like a reformulation. And, you know, you saw, you know, they had to make a merge in pickleball, you know, and that, you know, from what I've understood, left some less than happy investors. And, you know, that really kind of affects all the way down, you know, the line in the industry. So, you know, really, I think that we're positioned well because we're steady, you know, we're solid, and we're going to go step by step. And I think if we, you know, it's really going to be up to, you know, our board and Todd, you know, on next steps. But, you know, so far, you know, I think that we've continued to build a really solid base, which is our goal. And then, yes, I think that there are, you know, going to be opportunities to say, can we do, you know, can we make a step forward? But, you know, I think that generally, I think we're really served well by not trying to do a huge leap forward, but step by step, and being patient and not trying to shoot for the moon. But, you know, we'll see. You know, I think that we are in a spot where we want to drive more people to the sport. We want to be, you know, out there and kind of letting more, you know, fans know that disc golf, you can watch the pros, and getting bigger audiences on site. And then also just getting more people into the sport. We're in this because we believe disc golf is good for people. You know, like, for me, I'm an outdoor educator, you know, that loves outdoor sports. And, you know, I've funneled to this spot where it's like, wow, we could get so many more people playing disc golf, and that's good for us. It's a connection to nature. It's good for them, and it's good for society. And like that underlying mission, you know, of just getting more people in is, you know, really what drives us too. So
I'll follow up with the staffing changes. Notably, you've hired Dominic DeFibo. Am I getting his last name right?
Yeah.
As the new DGPT president, who's going to report to you, and I'm quoting from the press release, oversee all DGPT business operations and partnership development, focusing on strategic growth initiatives outside the disc golf industry. he's been kind of advising the Pro Tour a little bit through his Brown Advisory Group over the last couple of years. What exactly will he be doing in this new role, and how are you hoping this helps the tour overall?
Yeah, well, we've got a great executive team of senior leadership that's kind of homegrown. And, Dominic loves disc golf. He's been, a part of, our organization through advice and getting to know. He's come out to, I think, like 5 events a year. So he's passionate and he loves disc golf. He sees the future, that I've been kind of pointing at here, just as clearly as our team. He's going to be overseeing finance, business administration, and then, further partnership development. Sean, obviously, you guys had him on the round table, is awesome at what he does. In terms of partnerships, like we're talking about some of the, partners that you're referencing, which is, outside capital partners or, development partners that, bring new resources, whether it's through infrastructure. We have conversations going with, other sports leagues from time to time. How do we, do things a little bit better, a little bit more efficiently? And then also destinations. So a lot of the cities that we go to have marketing organizations that want to bring in sports like disc golf. And Dominic's going to be looking at those a little bit closer and trying to manage those because, frankly, the company's grown to a point where there's a lot to manage. And so bringing in someone with management experience on the financial side and the business management side, and then also that is used to talking to bigger partners and, kind of connecting the dots is perfect for us because I really want to dive in on some venue development stuff, player relations, tour operations. And my time is really spread pretty thin across that, and so is everyone on our team, so everybody's got a couple hats and we felt like, executive experience, it was important to bring in at this point in time, especially looking to kind of take those steps to bring more people into the sport, and I think that Dominic has I know him well, he's a friend of mine and I trust him and, he's going to be a great asset for our team.
You also lose Phil Delaunay, who was the assistant tour director, did a lot for the tour. He's headed over to the PDGA. So he'll be the director of competition over there, replacing Rebecca Duffy. Do you see this as is it worse to lose him or better to have an ally at the PDGA?
Well, I would just start by saying Phil is a close friend of mine, and I want what's best for Phil personally. And I think that this, with a young family, and congrats to he and his wife on the birth of their first child at the end of last year. The travel demands will be less. And I first and foremost say, congrats to Phil. I think it's right for him. And, maybe I wouldn't say that if I didn't get to keep working with him because, I do love working with Phil. And, I think that overall, it's probably a little bit of a wash. I mean, we would love to, continue to have Phil's passion and hard work on the tour, but also see a great benefit of strengthening the relationship with the PDGA, which has been great, so far. We've had our ups and downs, but I think that Doug and I have a great relationship. We have recurring meetings. We have alignment all the time and, feel that Phil getting this position will only help to bolster that.
I want to pivot a little bit here. We've been talking about your role and growing the sport, providing a platform at the biggest stages for the pros, getting to highlight them. You made reference during our discussion about match play about the invitation of the Go Throw skins onto the Pro Tour events. I'm curious what you see the relationship with the Pro Tour and the Go Throw Tour is, what you feel like their place is going to be. Are you concerned about this additional tour? And I guess I was kind of surprised to hear that, you're going to continue to incorporate them on the Pro Tour side. So I'd just be interested to hear you speak to that discussion a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, all I can say is we know those guys super well. They're part of our tour, literally, like they have been for 5 years since we've taken over management of the DGPT. So Chris, Gabe, Bobby, they're at almost every single one of our events working as part of DGN. That will continue next year. And so The only change in like literally, as I look at it, the only change is that they are now doing a point series for their events that they do in between tour stops. They went to all but, I think, one of the stops, all but one of the stops that they were at last year. So if you just look at last year's schedule, it's exactly the same. Plus they added one stop, and now there's points. And so what I would say is that it's great for disc golf to have a subculture around the central disc golf pro tour. That's how, the Go Throw guys have described it to me. I think their rebrand looks great. I think that it's going to support pros that want more opportunities in between stops. Now, when we did the Silver Series, we found that we were surprised at how many pros were playing those, right? We felt like, we're investing, we're kind of rolling out the big show and not really, seeing, all the spectators, all the viewership, kind of a dilution. So we backed away from that and we went towards Q Series, which, really the Silver Series was supposed to be like for those up and comers, right? And so the Q Series is now that. The pros also tell us, hey, we don't want to have to play for DGPT points every weekend. We burn out. And some players will skip, those Silver Series or, the Go Throw Tour Series and not have to feel like, hey, my sponsorship, which is integrated into DGPT points and in the results and the Tour Championship and majors, I don't have something on the line here. So, if they need to take a week off, if they need to rest, they'll do that. But some pros, are saying, hey, how do I keep making money? I'm on the road anyway. What A tier am I going to? And so if there's an apparatus that can be, looking at, promoting, bigger opportunities in between, I think it's good for the sport, and I think that obviously the announcement elicited a lot of discussion, but I see it totally differently, and those guys are still, like I said, working over 20 plus events with us, and didn't change any communication on the back end. We were talking about just yesterday. Our team was talking like, hey, what Go Throw skins could we potentially do in Europe? So, like they're coming like probably to a quarter of our events to do skins. They'll also take skins, outside sometimes. And, I think that, it's good to see an organization, put together something that can help, work for them and provide those opportunities. So yeah, that's maybe a different take than you guys thought, but that's really how we look at it. So
we thought you were going to say, we're going to crush those clowns. So speaking of schedule stuff, you cut the tour down a little bit this year from 20 events to 17, I think it is. What was the decision-making process there?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that it was necessarily like, hey, let's cut events back. It was more looking at the kind of events that we felt, were going to hit the mark on, what we needed to see for turnout, development, and have a good tour that allows people those weeks off and rest, whether it's, our team or the pros. Like we were just talking about, some folks will keep playing. Disc golf never stops. There's people playing all winter. So, I don't think it was necessarily like, hey, we have to cut back to a certain number. I think that, if you look at the Europe schedule, it's pretty packed. And, once we get into the heart of the season, it's almost like every week for a while. So it's just more about finding the right balance.
Jumping ahead a little bit in scheduling, Portland Worlds 2027. It's official. It's announced. Tell us about what you're excited for and the work that's gone into that. Yeah.
Well, I just want to mention that, the heart and soul of the events out there are really the Stumptown Disc Golf Club. They've been there, the folks that helped bring and produce the 2014 Worlds that, really inspired me to dive into, disc golf professionally. So, really excited to work with that team and, that city, to help bring, the biggest event in the world back. For me, I'm kind of, a little bit of an outside role, but, basically looking at ancillary events, course design for Glendoveer East, which is, something I'm looking to make a few changes, maybe this year into next year as we get there. And also just overall, finance partnerships with our team. But the TDs, Brian Cole, and Jesse will do a great job, running the event. And, really excited for them to TD Worlds. I know it's a big lift, and I'm going to try to support them as much as I can. They're both, they're living in Portland, running the Portland disc golf scene. Of course, Brian has been elevated to vice president of tour operations for us, but he is a former Stumptown Disc Golf Club president and been on the board before. I started out in Portland in 2019, helping to found the Portland Open. And got a lot of support from Stumptown there, and it's kind of slowly evolved from that. But, it was just really in the concept of, we need Blue Lake, where this Ultimate Battle, was back on tour. And we had it for a few years. The venue's been challenging, especially through COVID time, to keep on the tour and even keep updates with maintenance. It's a good local track. But we found that, as we got pushed over to Glendoveer, it's a really special venue that I think will, really do a lot for, that crowning moment and be able to welcome, 10,000 people if we can do it. So I think, it could be a real high watermark. Obviously, we're going to be chasing down whatever happens in Europe this year in terms of bringing people out and having a really, really special, Worlds. And then, of course, Milford next year, where there's always strong crowds. So I'm really excited about Worlds. I'm excited that you look at the next two is really just DGPT, top DGPT events evolving to really bring the PDGA in and seeing what can we do together. What can the leadership of the sport do bigger and better than ever? And I think that's a formula for success in the future. And I'm hoping to see more of that. So.
You're talking about crowds. Ticket prices have been a conversation. There were some people last year complaining about how much more expensive it had gotten to attend Pro Tour events. And while some events did quite well, there are also a lot of events where the crowds were pretty thin. Some of those events are no longer on the tour this year. But I think maybe it's gone a little bit unnoticed that if you want to go to an early round day now, like on a weekday, to Pro Tour events, mostly tickets are $10. So we've seen a real cutback in the cost of admission for those early days. What has been the thinking around ticket pricing and because we're cutting back on the price of tickets for those first and sometimes first and second rounds?
Yeah, our intent has always been cheap GA tickets for events. Most of them, I think, on the early days have been $15 in the past, but really saying all weekdays are $10. I think other than playoffs and a couple special events, but all weekdays almost for any event, $10 for a GA ticket to come and experience it is more of a marketing campaign to highlight that, hey, the prices are cheap. Yes, it is a little bit of a cut back too. In response, you just want to hearing what folks are saying. But we also have an initiative to target some local organizations in each city and say, here's some free tickets, especially for folks that wouldn't know about it anyway, as just a publicity and partnership initiative. So that's rolling out this year as well. But, it's just simple of hey, let's make it more accessible. The thing I say about tickets is that, I was on the tour from 2016 to 2019 and 2020 even. And, we all events had free tickets then, and all spectating was way less, because if it's free, you don't necessarily have the same value proposition. People are just oh, I could just roll out. And, I understand that in some places, especially like, the European Open, right? And historically, it has worked, but in some places, you want to put a lot of, money into marketing, and spreading the word. And, it's, you're not really able to do that as much if you don't have some revenue. And then the other thing is purses. Like the majority of ticket, revenue goes into purses. So, if you look at when tickets started and the purses, it just has gone up. So if we just, hey, everybody come out for free, I do think that the purses would take a hit. And that's where, this perspective that we have is, we're not, wanting to price it. If you look at any kind of event right now, it's in sports or out of sports, pretty much above the ticket price that we offer. And so, we want to kind of signal to people, hey, come on out. It's $10. Find those folks that maybe wouldn't have come out, partner with organizations to get some more people out. But, in general, ticketing last year was up at certain spots, down at others, and, overall, pretty flat with most of the industry. So, we saw some growth, and it's really based on what we're doing at events. So we want it to be fun when you come out. We want you to be able to play disc golf, have contests, putting contests. Tech Discs is out at a bunch of events, and that's really fun to check out. Good food, good drink, and good interactions with the pros, good experiences. So we're trying to keep driving those experiences. The events that do that well keep seeing more people. And I think this is just initiative $10 weekdays that we want to get out there and let people know, hey, come on out, $10. No problem.
Last year was the first year that the Disc Golf Pro Tour didn't use UDisc as your stat keeper. And it was a little rocky. The start of the season, it took some time to get up, season views and the full views. And then, at Champions Cup, for example, Presnell won the major and did not have complete statistics. And that was something that never really did get resolved throughout the season. Do you have a First off, I guess I'm curious to know what happened in that change that made, and that some players and some who ended up winning events didn't have complete statistics. And what is the Pro Tour going to do in order to ensure that stat keeping is, as accurate as possible?
Yeah, I haven't heard that, Josh. I mean, we don't organize stat keepers for PDGA majors. And I'm not sure what happened there. But I haven't heard that about any DGPT events, which, we oversee. I feel like, for instance, and I mentioned this last year, we recruit and train and deploy stat keepers in the same form and fashion. And I think that we probably hit about the same marks last year as we did the year before. I certainly think that, UDisc is a fantastic company. We're excited to try to continue some partnership initiatives in the future. But, they also are focusing on an important aspect of the sport, which is providing services to a lot of just folks that play. And it's a great product. So, I whether, we work with them in the future closely or not, I would encourage everyone, and we, use UDisc ourselves in casual rounds to go and use it and record rounds and give data. And it's a great, kind of company to help further the growth of the sport. In terms of the transition, of course, there's going to be some road bumps, and I think we acknowledged that early on, and you saw them. But I also think by the end of the season, everything was in good working order. There are some new features, in terms of, measurements of throws, of putts, that is allowing us to, continue evolving the technology forward. And the PDGA, scores and stats team, Statmando, are only going to continue to improve the product. I know that they've continued to add resources there, and we have a lot of faith in them. And I think the partnership's been working great. So, I think that the product will continue to improve. I think we've worked to catch up to where it was, and I believe that in the future we'll continue to grow and surpass that. But yeah, that's kind of where we're at on it, and I think it's going to be a great year for scores and stats.
Do you feel like you should be more involved with making sure that everything is in tip-top order for PDGA majors, because for a casual fan, they don't care who owns the event.
Right.
And like the presentation on DGN is going to feel identical, basically. But we do want the majors to be the highest level. And if the PDGA is screwing it up, like I feel like it's not like you can say, well, it's not our problem. Like the PDGA screwed up and they didn't get the volunteers. But like, shouldn't it be on you as like the organization that is presenting professional disc golf to fans? The PDGA is not really doing that, right? Like they essentially partnered with you for that purpose. Shouldn't you just make sure that these things are happening?
I think our vision is that at every major, we roll out the entire DGPT red carpet as much as we possibly can and allow the PDGA staff to build on top of that. And I don't think that that's necessarily, how it's deployed at the time, this time, but I feel like we're moving in that direction. And I do think that the PDGA does a great job, and the only, more collaboration will only make it better, at the highest level. I continually, make our organization fully available, in any way, shape, or form to support the majors. And, we are integrated in, obviously, through media. And I believe that, we'll continue to, add more and more resources as our partnership continues to evolve. So, I think that vision is shared, and we'll continue with execution. I also think that Phil, being in the role that he's in, will bolster anything that the PDGA is, deploying, at majors, because he knows and has helped develop the top end of our tour. And, I think that it's a bright future for continued collaboration there.
Last thing here, and then we'd love to have you in our subscriber bonus segment inside the circle to answer a few more questions. Does that sound all right?
Absolutely.
Great. So last thing here, basket testing. There was like this basket testing that happened at the end of last season, but it was like a fake basket testing. It was like the announcement of the announcement. And it's been like a really weird, like this has been an like endless discussion of baskets and basket testing, and yet like nothing ever seems to actually happen. And then like I don't really know what it is that happened at the end of last season. So what is the situation? Are you actually making basket changes for 2025, or is this another year where we're going to say, well, it's coming soon?
No, we are updating our list for 26. The follow up is planned for Kansas City Wide Open. And we're collaborating with manufacturers and getting that announcement out soon. The first basket testing was to get baskets submitted, get some initial data, but also refine our process. We haven't done equipment testing like this in the past. And I've tried to say for years, this is going to be a multi-year process. Like even just letting the manufacturers know that it was going to happen last year, we needed some lead time. Now we're going to follow up and make some determinations based on what happens at the next basket testing, roll out an updated list in 2026. I think that list will be curated to ensure that the baskets that are on the list are, player approved. Maybe basically one of the things we wanted to do is get some player feedback and understand what level of like sign off, what percentage of players, signed off on which baskets, right? So some of that data is going to roll over, get more engagement. And then, we are changing our process. We're working on, having indoor space for testing, taking wind elements out of it, changing the distances, changing the amount of putts, the different types of, approach to testing the basket. And then, also, like I said, getting those baselines of what players think and where is that line that if a basket's approved below that percentage, we're going to inform the manufacturer that it's not going to be on tour. This process is important. There's stakeholders, people may say, hey, that basket, we've seen it on coverage and it's not good enough. And that's a simple approach. But we're getting there. I think that on my side, there's stakeholders. There's also people that have different opinions, other than like, hey, that should have caught. So, it's a problem. Some folks, have different opinions like, hey, there's different grasses and different cuts on greens in golf, and you have to learn each one, and maybe you need to putt a different way, and that's up to you to figure out. And we're not looking at this as like, hey, we're the arbiter of exactly what the truth is about baskets. We're trying to bring in stakeholders, get a good testing mechanism, analyze the data. We're working Jeff Homburg from the PDJ, Statmando, and getting that list to a spot where everybody's feeling really comfortable. Now that may then whittle down to a smaller number or eventually to one. And that's a process that I see going from 2026 to 27 to 28. So that's what people can expect. We're not going to say 26, there's one basket, 27, there's one basket. Could it happen in the future? Sure. But that's not the path we're on right now.
So in other words, an announcement of an announcement of an announcement of an announcement.
It's a process. It's not a snap your fingers thing. So yeah, I mean we can take the comments on the way there. But I think that for our stakeholders and for the players and for the tour, what I'm outlining makes sense. For some fans, we understand that maybe it doesn't, and I think that that's okay.
I mean, I guess my thought is that there are clearly some baskets that are not up to the standard, and it feels like it's taking a long time. And I understand that you need to have like a rigorous actual testing mechanism. Otherwise, it's just like making arbitrary decisions is not fair. But it does feel like we have kind of been subjected to obviously worse baskets, and trying to resolve that more quickly would be ideal.
Yeah, I think that some of the things happening behind the scenes are working to resolve it.
Okay.
I think we'll probably see a change, kind of from behind the scenes this year. But certainly it is a little bit more complex. And, we're not taking the stance and the approach of we're just going to tag things out without getting data. I know that
which of course is the right thing to do.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me ask one follow up to that real fast. Yep. Let's say a company approached you, one whose basket is, one that would pass this inspection, right? Company approached you and said, we will pay X amount of money to be the basket of the Pro Tour, essentially as a sponsorship. We want our baskets on every Pro Tour event. You create a plan, obviously, to facilitate that on courses. Is that something that the Pro Tour would see as an opportunity to sell as a sponsorship opportunity, or are you not open to those kind of talks?
No, absolutely. We're open to it, but I think that the process I've laid out is that when we create the list, right, for 26, it's going to be through testing, approval by the players, in event teams, and then those baskets will need to there'll be official DGPT approved and licensed baskets. Now, I expect a licensing fee if you want to have your basket on the tour, and that's something that we are starting to, roll out. And then after that, it may not be just the baskets that meet, the minimum standard. It may be, hey, we want 3 baskets. And if your basket qualifies, we're going to take, bids to say these baskets. And then it may be what you're describing, which is there's one basket. It's a great opportunity for your company. And we wanted to make it the official basket of the tour. Certainly that could be, a lucrative licensing deal, but we want a process to get there, and we want to, signal to our partners, here's the steps. Because, design and manufacturing of baskets, it does have a lead time. And, we want, stakeholders that have been part of the sport, making this equipment for years, to be able to see it and put their best foot forward. Competition will create a best case scenario in the long run. But if we tag out dozens of companies that are making baskets now, we may be tagging out people that have ambitions to invest in creating better baskets for the sport.
Sure.
With that lead time, the competition of saying we want to make this high-end professional basket may give us better options. In fact, if we had done this last year, one of the baskets from Gateway at the basket testing and one of the Eagles Crossing baskets performed really well. I'd never seen a basket like it. That was not ready until the month before the basket testing. They actually accelerated it to get it into basket testing. If we just said we're going to make this decision now, they may not be investing in that, in the way and time frame that they are. So I think the process will also allow people to plan, and a lot of these are important partners to us. And so if we just say, forget it, guys, it may not be, honoring and respecting the investment that they've made in the tour as well. And while, at the end of that is, hey, somebody's upset about a putt that they feel, maybe should have stuck in. I've seen that scenario on what people consider the best baskets in the world many times. Like if you look at Innova and Discraft and DGA baskets, which have models that are really supported. I've seen all of those not catch putts and players walk away upset. And so I don't think that you're going to eliminate that overall, like from this part of our game. I think you want to, bring that standard up, and that's the process that we're doing. But I think cultivating a clear message, a clear timeline will stimulate innovation and help, kind of get companies putting their best foot forward here. Could it be faster? Certainly. But the factors that I'm describing are kind of why we've taken the approach that we have. And it does take a lot of time, effort, and bandwidth on our end to understand this. And, I think that if you're invested in the tour and you've invested in manufacturing equipment and just say, hey, we just think this, from video, from player, we're just going to do it without any data or any heads up or a timeline, then it's pretty discouraging. So it kind of goes back to what we were talking before, like slow and steady, understand that there are things to improve, and that if we put a process in place and a timeline in place, that let's hit that mark. Let's be clear. And I think we're on that path now. So
awesome. Well, Jeff, always appreciate you giving us some time.
Yeah.
We'll have you over in the subscriber bonus right after this, and a bunch more questions from subscribers in the Discord. Awesome. All right. Jeff Spring with us here on the Upshot. We will take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Thanks, guys.
Welcome back to the Upshot. As always, thanks to Jeff for coming on. Don't miss the subscriber bonus segment. You can become a subscriber for less than $4 a month at discgolf.ultiworld.com/subscribe. Get into the Discord, get exclusive articles, check out all of our live Inside the Circles, and we're getting ready to start doing rapid reacts again, Josh. I am fired up. I am fired up.
Rapid reacts are definitely the funnest part of this podcast. They are so fun, so enjoyable. So make sure to get a subscription, come over and have a good time with us on the Discord.
There is no podcast in the disc golf universe that is giving you reactions to tournaments as fast as we do.
That's right. Like putt drops, we're in the Discord. We're pausing
not
for
always,
the interviews.
not always, but
not always.
There
but
are
often.
times where sometimes they haven't even closed the broadcast and we're already going.
Yes, yeah.
So anyway, jump in. Supreme Flight Open starts in 2 weeks. We got to start getting our crack my knuckles for some season preview content coming here pretty soon.
We're so close. It's going to be nice to talk about the actual golf again. I always love at the end of the season. I'm like, oh man, we get to catch up on everything, and then we get like halfway through it, and we get the break for the holidays, and now I'm like, okay, I'm ready to talk golf again.
Let's go. Let's go.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. That is going to do it for today's show. Thank you so much for joining us. We will be back next week. Scheduling might be a little different next week. I'm going to be out of town on Tuesday. Josh is just finding this out.
I also am going to be out of town on Tuesday.
Hey, okay. So we're not clear whether we're going to do one or two shows. We may end up just doing one show unless there's some big news of note. So just stay tuned. We might have a show Wednesday or maybe Thursday, but probably nothing until midweek. So that is your note. Stay tuned to our socials for any updates on that front. For Josh Mansfield, I'm Charlie Eisenhood saying so long, and we will talk to you next week right here on The Upshot.